Look into the atom, you get what you need.
Yeah.
Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both. Okay, so, like, what's that all about? Well, that's Bob Camblin for you. He's kind of the star of our deep dive today. This guy, right? He's this iconoclastic and enigmatic artist. And to really get a handle on him, we've dug into a whole bunch of stuff, like, his own writings, like actual stuff he wrote down. Plus, biographies about his life, how those go, all about his artistic journey, the whole shebang.
Right.
And reviews of these books, like Zen and the Art of Enlightenment and Bob Camblin, incomplete works.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
And this is kind of cool, like, there's this YouTube video, right?
Yeah.
It's like an analysis of one of his drawings. I mean, who does that?
People on YouTube, that's who.
Yeah, true. But the point is, with all this stuff, we're really trying to get under the skin of Camblin's whole artistic philosophy.
Yeah.
And those recurring ideas, stuff that pops up over and over in his work. I think it's really going to offer some real insight into a mind that was, well, pretty unique.
It's not just art history, though, is it? Like, when you start digging into Camblin, how he saw the world and all that, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
His ideas about perception, reality, going deep into the self and of course, the creative process. There's, like, these little sparks of insight in there. I don't know. It kind of illuminates things for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Anyone who's ever, like, stopped to think about, how we make sense of the world and our place in it all, well, they're going to find some aha moments here.
I like
and we're going to keep it sharp, focus on the most compelling stuff without getting bogged down.
Right, we're not going to get lost in the weeds.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's start with Camblin himself. Like, who was this guy? As an artist, he really did it all. Oils, acrylics, watercolors, drawings, prints, even painted paper. I mean, the guy was all over the place.
Prolific. And
the amount he created it's just mind-boggling. Thousands of pieces scattered all over the globe. But here's the thing, and it's kind of a paradox.
Yeah.
His work it's actually pretty scarce in the art market.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like he was so prolific, but you don't see his stuff around much.
Right. It just adds to the whole mysterious vibe around him.
It really does.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you think, maybe he wasn't all that concerned with fame or success in the traditional sense. Like he was just driven to create, almost like it was compulsion.
Yeah, like making art was the most important thing.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's go back to the beginning. His formal training started at the Kansas City Art Institute.
Right.
But then, and this is a big turning point, he gets a Fulbright scholarship to go to Italy.
Italy.
It really had a huge impact on him, especially the Uffizi Gallery, obviously, but also, get this, the Capuchin Catacombs in Palermo.
Oh, wow. The catacombs.
Yeah, those underground tombs with all the,
The mummies.
Right, the mummies. He actually mentioned them specifically. And it's clear that those Italian influences, they stuck with him and found their way into his later work.
It's fascinating to think about, right? The Uffizi, all that classical beauty, and then the catacombs with that kind of macabre imagery. It's like he's drawn to both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, the beautiful and the not so beautiful.
The idealized and the real, maybe.
Yeah.
And that tension, I think, you can really see it play out in his work in some of those recurring themes we'll talk about.
For sure. So after Italy, he taught at a few universities, including Rice University.
Okay.
But then in 1976, he makes this pretty big life change. He basically becomes a nomad, devoting himself completely to his art.
He just, like, walked away from it all.
Pretty much. He traveled a lot during this time. And it's obvious that those experiences, all those places and people really shaped his vision.
Yeah. To leave academia, the whole structured world, and just go to follow your art so completely. It's pretty remarkable.
It is.
It really speaks to a deep commitment to his art, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, he needed that direct experience, that immersion in different cultures to fuel his creativity.
Yeah, it was a very personal path, and probably a pretty challenging one.
I can imagine.
But he wasn't always a lone wolf. He did collaborate quite a bit, actually.
Oh.
His most notable collaborations were with Earl Staley and Joe Tate. They called themselves B&E Productions, and later the Holding Firm.
Those are some interesting names.
Right, yeah.
E&E Productions. I mean, come on, that's pretty playful.
Yeah, it's got that kind of mischievous, almost rebellious feel.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway, they were known for putting on these, like, really experimental shows. They were really pushing the boundaries of what art could be. Later, he also collaborated with Nancy Giordano on Musha's Volantis. It's a text, we'll talk about it later, but
So he's not just this, like, solitary genius type.
no, not at all.
He's engaging with other artists, sharing ideas, experimenting together.
Yeah, and pushing the limits of what they could do as a group.
Right.
Now, here's something else that's really interesting. He often signed his work as anonymous or anonymous artists.
Really? Anonymous?
Yep. It really speaks to this belief he had, that the art itself was more important than the individual ego of the artist.
Huh. That's deep. It's like he's saying, don't focus on me, focus on the art.
Exactly. It makes you think about the whole relationship between the artist, the art, and the audience.
It really does. Like, what does it mean to create something and then not take credit for it?
That's a good question. So, okay, now that we have a better sense of Camblin, the person, the artist, let's dig into some of the big ideas behind his work.
Okay.
The themes, the philosophy, all that good stuff.
Sounds good.
One thing that really jumps out at you is his use of paradox.
Paradox.
Yeah, and this constant challenging of how we see reality. I mean, his art and his writing are just full of these contradictory statements. Things like a trap that does not trap, a structure that stands but does not move.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack.
Right. And then there's that quote we started with about the atom and magic both fulfilling our needs. It's like he's suggesting there are multiple paths to the same truth.
I see.
He even described art as a series of questions disguised as images.
Oh, I like that.
So it's not about providing answers. It's about making you think, making you question.
It's about making you, uncomfortable, shaking things up a bit.
Exactly. He's messing with our heads in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. It's like he takes these ideas that seem totally opposite, and smashes them together.
Right.
And it forces you to re-examine your own assumptions about how things work.
It's like a mental workout.
Exactly.
He also talked about this thing he called the mystic switch.
The mystic switch. What's that?
It's like a feeling, like a rising hackle or a knot in your stomach.
Oh, okay.
And he believed that was like a direct connection to truth.
Interesting.
He was really big on nonverbal communication, especially in drawing. He saw it as this primal form of expression, something that comes before language.
Like more direct, more pure.
Right. He even felt that words could sometimes get in the way of experiencing art.
Oh, wow. That's making me think about, like, how much we rely on language to understand things.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's like maybe sometimes we overthink it,
Yeah, maybe we get too caught up in the words and miss the gut feeling, the intuition.
Exactly. And then there's the influence of Zen Buddhism and the I Ching, which is it's really strong in his work.
Yeah.
One example, and this gets discussed a lot, is his catch bowl drawing.
Catch bowl, okay.
Yeah. It's a direct reference to this Zen idea, right? Where the bowl represents your untamed mind.
Okay, I see.
And the act of catching it, well, that symbolizes like the first steps towards self-discipline, towards enlightenment.
So it's like taming your own wild mind.
Exactly. And this drawing, get this, it's even linked to hexagram 34 from the I Ching, great power.
Wow, they really go deep into this in the sources, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It's a whole bunch of Eastern philosophy wrapped up in this one drawing.
And it all ties in with those Taoist ideas of balance and non-resistance, like true strength comes from understanding and going with the flow, not fighting against it.
Right, it's not about forcing things.
Yeah.
So another big theme, especially in his work from the 70s, is metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis, like transformation.
Yeah, like change, evolution, the whole cycle of life and death and rebirth. It was a big part of his, what they call his enigmatic search for life's mysteries.
It makes sense. I mean, change is pretty much the only constant, right?
Right.
And it's certainly mysterious.
And he used all these symbols during this period. Puppets, scarecrows, skulls, even glass reliquaries.
Interesting. What do you think those symbols represent?
Well, puppets? Maybe they represent, like, a lack of control, being manipulated by outside forces.
Oh, I see.
Scarecrows, they're kind of temporary, fragile, representing, I don't know, maybe the fleeting nature of life. Skulls, well, that's a pretty obvious symbol of death. And then reliquaries, they're for preserving precious things, so maybe they represent memory or the attempt to hold on to the past.
It's like he's trying to capture all the different facets of this journey we're all on.
Yeah, the whole messy, beautiful, and ultimately mysterious experience of being alive.
For sure.
He also explored the concept of traps.
traps.
Yeah, like fear traps, time traps, the ones we create for ourselves and the ones the world throws at us.
I feel like I fall into those all the time.
Oh, me too. And he was also really fascinated by illusion. That's most evident in his mouches volantes style. It's named after those, those floaters you sometimes see in your vision.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like he's saying, hey, what we see might not be what's really there.
So tying it all together, it's like he's questioning what reality even is.
Exactly. And a big part of Camblin's art is that he really demands that the viewer participate. It's not just about looking at a pretty picture, it's about engaging with it, trying to figure it out.
Like a puzzle.
Yeah, he actually put these data problems and traps into his drawings on purpose.
Yeah.
It's like he wants to provoke us to look deeper.
That's cool. So it's not passive, it's an active experience.
Totally. It's about self-discovery.
Yeah.
One review even called his drawings riddles disguised as structures, then koans disguised as blueprints.
Whoa, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, it gets you thinking.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how his style evolved over time. His early work had a social protest element to it. Then he moved toward a more subjective, symbolic language.
Right.
And eventually he developed the mouches volantes style. Do you see a connection between those phases?
I think so. It's like he starts out engaging with the world, social issues, politics, all that, but then he shifts inward. He becomes more interested in the internal world, the subjective experience. And Mouches volantes, with its focus on illusion and perception, well, that feels like a natural progression from that.
Yeah, it does. He was very clear that he wanted to evoke subjective states of mind. He even said he wanted to blow our minds by transforming the symbolic and decorative into something mystical. And get this, he said he wanted to remake Goya in 20th century terms.
Wow. Goya, that's a big name.
It is. And thinking about Goya's work, all those dark, powerful images,
Yeah.
it seems like Camblin was aiming for something similar. He wanted to explore those big, often uncomfortable truths about humanity.
Right, but with a modern twist.
Exactly. And he was very intentional about keeping a certain level of mystery in his work.
Really?
Yeah, he said, if you knew too much, you weren't really playing the game.
Oh, I like that.
So it's not about having all the answers. It's about the process of discovery, the journey.
Yeah, and that makes it more personal, don't you think?
Definitely. It allows each viewer to find their own meaning in the work.
Makes it more meaningful.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Our sources reveal some pretty interesting personal stuff about Camblin. Turns out he was a huge reader.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was known to read during art class.
That's awesome.
There's this great anecdote about him skipping class just to finish a book. He always had a book with him.
A true bookworm. What kind of stuff did he read?
He was really into Emerson, the I Ching, and haiku.
Huh. So philosophy, Eastern thought, and then those short, evocative poems. It's like you can almost see how those influences show up in his art.
Yeah, definitely. And he even invented this whole Saint Bambola myth.
Saint Bambola, what's that all about?
It seems like it was his way of processing his own experiences as an artist, like a personal allegory,
Oh, okay.
working through his struggles, his triumphs, all that. And then there's the Mr. Peanut persona.
Mr. Peanut, like the mascot.
The one and only. He apparently had a full Mr. Peanut costume and would sometimes, dress up as him. He even signed some of his work as Mr. Peanut.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It is, and it kind of ties into that whole anonymity thing we talked about, right?
Yeah, it does. Like hiding his identity, playing with it. It's almost like a performance.
Right. And there's this story about him refusing to accept payment for his art.
Seriously?
Yep. And there was this one patron who was so determined to pay him that they put $100 bills inside a blown glass tube.
Whoa.
So Camblin wouldn't have to actually touch the money.
So he could still take it without, compromising his principles. That's pretty clever. It says a lot about how he viewed his art, doesn't it?
It does. Like it was something beyond commerce, beyond money.
Yeah, it had a different kind of value for him.
His friend Earl Staley described him as a gregarious storyteller. And they shared a studio for years, calling it, wait for it, B&E Productions.
Of course they did.
They were quite a pair, apparently. They even got involved in some, shall we say, unauthorized construction projects.
Oh, no. What did they do?
We don't have the details, but it sounds like they had a lot of fun pushing boundaries, even outside their art.
Yeah, that sounds like them.
Later in life, Camblin moved to Oregon and then Louisiana.
Okay.
He kind of dropped out of the Houston art scene where he'd been so active. He only came back briefly before he passed away.
It's like he retreated from the world a bit.
Yeah, It adds to the whole mystery, doesn't it?
Definitely.
So, for all you listeners out there, what are the key takeaways from all this? I think what stands out to me is Camblin's constant questioning of everything,
Yeah.
his unique blend of Eastern philosophy and modern art,
Right.
his deep exploration of our inner world, all the chaos and the struggle for self-understanding, and of course the way he makes us, the viewers, think and participate.
Absolutely. And to add to that, I keep thinking about that idea of a bright gray.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's like he was searching for this balance between common sense and a willingness to believe in miracles.
Miracles on both sides of science and magic, he said.
Exactly. He wasn't afraid to embrace those things that we can't fully explain.
That's a great point to end on. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
And finally, we encourage you to, actually look at Camblin's work.
Yeah, see it for yourself.
You can find images online or in those books we mentioned, and then, think about it, talk about it, engage with it.
Have that ekpharistic dialogue they talked about.
Exactly. Because ultimately the answers, if there are any, well, they're probably inside you. Your own interpretations, your own experiences.
That's where the real discovery happens.
That's Camblin for you.
That's Camblin.